Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday, y'all.
I can see you.
And I can see you.
Hi.
All right.
Howdy, howdy.
So how do you like blue jeans?
All
Not
this
so
crap's the
much?
same. I mean, it's about the same as Microsoft Teams, about the same as Zoom. They all have similar features. It's just honestly bouncing between whatever application I have for my meeting,
I
which is,
disagree with that. I disagree with that. Nothing's worse than Teams. Teams
I
is
think
a
I'm.
mess.
Yeah, it's not great. When it works, it works.
Okay, here we go. Took me a while to figure that out. Am I in?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You
Uh,
are alive,
Well,
yeah.
that's something to get used to. So the thumbnail of your own camera is just a little thing off in the corner, right?
It's
Guess
very
that
annoying.
makes sense.
Especially when you're in a big meeting and it covers people's faces where you would want to see them. It's Blue Jeans is great.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
User experience, baby. Best. Well, like I mentioned in Slack, I put together a little um, keynote slideshow just because there is some stuff, as you alluded to, like show and tell. There's just a little background that probably would be helpful to have in a sort of slideshow. Does that make sense? Does that feel good to you, Eric?
yeah.
Which Eric?
You.
Oh,
Get used to having to say that. Yeah, it's fine. You're more than welcome to do share on here. Should knock on wood, it should be pretty straightforward and easy.
Okay. Let me see if I can make that work. Settings. Screen share? What is that right there? Okay. Look at that, Rasmussen. How the hell did you do that? A lower
it's in
third?
settings somewhere.
No
I'm playing around
shit.
with settings.
That's nuts.
Zoom doesn't have that. That's a good feature.
Yeah, I like that.
It's fancy.
Yeah, it's a little weird when like a third of Georgia Tech participants have them in the Tech Gold, and then the rest of us don't. We look like amateurs.
I'm gonna have to quit and open Blue Jeans after I've given it permission here. So I'll see you guys in a minute.
I was gonna move up to our living room so I had like a better background for mine, but then as soon as the male person shows up in probably like 30 minutes, the dogs go berserk. So
That's some good planning.
trying. How'd you do your little title card, Eric?
Well, I clicked on settings in the top right on that pull-out drawer,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what I did.
I'm gonna try a screen share on this.
Oh, I went to choose virtual
Figure it out.
background
Uh-huh.
Lower thirds.
in lower third.
Hmm. Weird. I don't even see. Oh, there we go.
Is that working? Is that this whole screen? Okay. Okay, so that's working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, Eric, just so you're aware, we threw this together, just kind of background is.
You did it again, just saying Eric broadly and expecting the
Simbrat.
Erics to
Is it
know. There you
Simbrat or
go.
Simbrat? Simbrat or Simbrat?
Simbrat. Yep.
Okay. Maybe we'll go by last names. How about that?
I'm used to it.
All
Host
right.
Eric. Gracious host Eric.
There you go. I like host Eric. It sounds regal.
So this is just the background of how we were able to use a moment, where we had a pissed off chancellor. Not necessarily that it is everybody's strategy to get a pissed off chancellor, but sure helped us. So 2006, we did that. The rest is.
I don't see the slides advancing, but
Oh,
maybe
are you
you're.
kidding me?
Nope, it's stuck on hello for me. If
Yeah,
you're
just
sharing the
hello.
window, you may want to share the presentation window and not the application window.
Let me actually jump out of it and use the web version of it. That usually works better.
I swear, presenting presentations virtually is the bane of my existence.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan either.
Did the lower third work for me?
No, it does not.
No, I don't see it. You have to turn it on too. There's a toggle.
I set it up.
I set mine up too. Oh, confusingly, it has a checkbox to turn it off. And
Really?
clicking the off checkbox, that actually turns it
You're
on.
right. I had to click the off button.
Eric S., what is your guess of, we're thinking we'd get 5 today if we're lucky. I mean, realistically.
Traditionally, we've had 5 to 10.
Okay.
It depends on the topic. It's honestly, the attendees are probably the same folks that you see in the higher ed Drupal Slack that post every week. Those that are most active are going to be the ones that show up. I would love to see more, but I am not going to be super optimistic about it just by nature of today being a security update day. I'm sure folks will make a reason why they don't want to check this out.
I turned on my screen thinking I could my external display thinking that I'd get a little more light shining on me, but I think now I look like Violet Beauregard and Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory.
You do. Confirmed. You like David Cross from Arrested Development. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's up to you.
So good. So good. I just, did my, I think it was 4th rewatching. This time looking for David Cross in the fireplace or whatever. When the scene's not on him, David Cross is doing some Where's Waldo crap.
And David Cross is from Georgia.
Yeah, he showed up in a bunch of weird Adult Swim programs. I know he was like a guest voice on Aqua Teen Hunger Force and things like that.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have a lot of weird local talent that shows up on those locally produced shows back in the olden days of Adult Swim.
Ryan just finished season 1 of a series that prominently features Georgia.
Oh, yeah,
You need to start season 2 right away.
I do. Atlanta.
Oh, nice.
You're terrified. Mr. Simbrat's terrified you're going to say Walking Dead, I'm sure. But.
I mean, the first episode was featured a lot of Georgia State University, and Atlanta definitely is true to form for some of Atlanta's culture, which is nice. And it's just a hilarious show.
Atlanta is it's one of the best shows, top 10 shows that I've seen. I cannot wait for the third season. So good.
I enjoyed the first season.
Friend I know actually who does set design down here in the state for films and stuff. She did some of the set design for Atlanta season 2, and she said working with those folks was one of the best experiences she's ever had.
It'll be interesting to see where it goes. I can't say anything else because Ryan hasn't seen season 2, which is as good as season 1 is. Season 2 is just like another level.
And the last thing you want to do is spoil television here on a pre-call. That would he'd never live it down probably. So what we've done in the past for previous editions of these is obviously if you look in the left-hand corner, there's a record function going on. As long as y'all are comfortable with it, I have a YouTube account. I'll toss these up on, clipping out the pre-roll part for your permanent resource, or for you to place on portfolios, websites, blah 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 blah, to further reference in the future. If y'all are uncomfortable with that, let me know and I will excise that. Otherwise, that's the game plan for making sure that this has additional shelf life after this event today. So be on your best behavior is what I'm telling you.
Yeah. No, we will.
I have no problem with that. Need a better backdrop someday, but yeah. This is my office.
Need a better what?
Oh, my backdrop's pretty unexciting.
I will say that Blue Jean's blur capability is better than Teams, whereas Teams tends to blur a ton. This actually tends to do it kind of okay. I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
To enable virtual backgrounds, download the virtual background package.
You guys are really getting into this thing. You're going to have all the Blue Jeans customizations.
Mm-hmm.
Eric's cool with his Mad Men poster, which is good.
Apparently they changed something about Keynote in iCloud, and I can't just restrict it to the size of the window. I don't know how I'm going to make that work if it's not showing advancing frames. Somewhere. Try this guy.
Oh, and just a heads up, I'll be moderating folks that may leave their microphones on, that may be doing some errant audio interference. That's one thing that BlueJeans makes incredibly easy from my side, is that it shows who is active microphones. So if at any point there's an audio issue, I will be working diligently to mute that person. And then also, as we discussed in the past, I'll also be facilitating any discussion or help guide any feedback we receive, so that y'all aren't having to do constant moderation on the chat feature, or if someone's interested in asking a question, I'll help facilitate that as much as I can.
Is that screen share working at all?
Yep.
Yeah, right now it says hello.
And it's just showing that one slide? Okay.
It says hello, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind moving it, just so we can confirm that it's working as expected.
If I don't mind what? Oh. Yeah.
Advancing the slide.
Is it? Yeah. It just seems to be stuck on that. This is something that works on Zoom. Yeah, I can't advance it.
iCloud
Eric,
showing
you had
it's-
mentioned another way of doing it that had worked for you in the past. Is that what you tried, Bob?
Yep, that's what I'm trying now.
Okay.
And none of your keyboard buttons are working, left, right, up, down, to move between these.
No.
Well, we won't judge you if you share a PowerPoint presentation or the PowerPoint editor and just go through the slides.
Can I share the whole screen?
Oh, we see a blue screen.
See a blue screen?
Yep.
It's just blue.
I'm assuming it's the background of your secondary monitor.
No, those are all multicolored. I'm going to stop sharing on that.
Oh, how fun.
Let's see if I can share that now. Anything? You seeing
We
that?
see that.
Oh, yeah, we see it.
Okay, let me see if I can. Okay. Oh, that's too bad, though. That was going to be a good joke. Damn it. Damn it. If I hit play on here, though, it's going to go away, right?
You can test it and see what's going to happen.
See what happens.
We're back to hello, right?
Yep.
Yep. And then when you click play,
Did it go?
No.
we still see the same thing.
Ah, geez Louise, okay. Yeah, it's running on mine, but okay.
Gambled and lost.
We're here. I'm going to have to get rid of the child of the corn then. Okay.
That's what happens when you make a joke.
Hmm.
The whole thing. Actually, that could be the
There you
evil
go.
on the screen, right? We're haunted.
For those that have just joined us in the last 2 minutes or so, thanks for joining today. We're just getting set up with some quick introductory slides, and whenever the UNL folks are ready, we'll get this party started. As a friendly reminder, if this is your first time using BlueJeans, make sure to check out your audio interface and make sure that you're muted unless you're otherwise speaking. BlueJeans does have the ability to raise hands virtually. Wow. If you do want to ask any questions. Also, there is a chat function on the app itself. I would strongly encourage you to use either of those two options to facilitate discussion, questions, comments throughout the presentation. I will be both facilitating questions and discussions, as well as making sure audio inputs and all that are preventing any audio interference or echoes. If y'all have any questions, I think you can direct message on BlueJeans. Yes, you can. If you have any questions directly for me, feel free to send a direct message on here, and I'll respond to it as soon as possible.
Thanks, Eric. Time to run through these.
Was that a general question or to me?
Yeah, go ahead and start. Oh, Eric S. Or are we waiting for others?
You did. So we've got 12 people in the audience right now, minus y'all, which is what, 5 or 6?
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of folks in here. I assume we'll see folks stream in and out as they get Blue Jeans set up and or pull out their hair trying to figure out.
To maze around the world.
Yeah, wherever that came from. Well, I'll go ahead and get started. We just put a few slides together to sort of as a backgrounder for the conversation, which I think is vaguely governance and Drupal and things between. So we are just planning on mostly hanging out and chatting, but wanted to share background. On governance, we've probably got one of the oldest web communities in higher ed. At least we've been told that anyway. It took shape in 2002. We started with PHP, BB, IRC channel, just some little stuff online. And then I believe in November of that year, we started having regular meetings. And we've been having a meeting on the second Tuesday at 2 p.m. For, what is that, 18 years? So through WDN, we distributed the templates. We also, obviously, it provides a great feedback loop. So we're able to take in comments and criticism and, constructive ideas and contributions as well into the overall web effort at the University of Nebraska. But it took a kick in the pants to get to a truly unified website. I had some glorious animations on these next slides. I can't get it to work in Blue Jeans, so we'll just kind of take you through it. This is sort of our creation story of getting to a unified website. So I'm sitting in my office, phone rings, and I've got a cheesed off chancellor on the other end of the line, and he's looking at the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, their website, and it is entirely blue. It might as well be the University of Kansas. Down in the lower left, I think there's marks representing our university, but otherwise it's a blue website. And he wasn't too pleased about that because he'd been doing some work trying to unify brand and things at the university. So I'll just kind of skip through these. Swear to God, really neat animation here with the words sliding up in the background, but anyway. So that's Harvey Perlman. He was the cheesed off chancellor. And that's actually the look he had on his face most of the time. When you heard him on the other end of the line, you sort of imagined that pursed lip proved something to me, sort of look that he would often give people. So I had to stammer and say, well, we don't have a requirement to use the web templates. It's all voluntary. He said, well, we're going to change that. And then at his State of the University address in 2006, he laid out, I think, 3 or 4 paragraphs on the web. I got to help write it, and it very much intersected with things that we were already doing. Obviously, this isn't, a strategy for your situation, although I would say that it's hugely important, I think, certainly was in our context, to have that ultimate decision maker at your university be in your corner. It kind of allows you to hold the trump card. The other thing that we were able to bring to the table, since we started really working with a web community years before, we were ready. We were ready to deal with a campus-wide unified approach to the website. We had all the templates. We had, everything. We had community. We had communication. So we were ready to go, and we were able to carry that through for a number of years. After the chancellor's mandate came down, we had a unified website. Few people, in fact, including some deans, pushed back against that during those years, but always with the chancellor, lurking in the background, and his support never wavered. So we got through a few crises, and eventually, after a while, it became just kind of the way the university does business, and the pushback sort of waned, and it's not really a topic that comes up anymore. But eventually, chancellors retire, and we knew we weren't going to have Harvey in our corner anymore. We would at least have, at best, we would have a 6-month delay before we might be able to get into a new chancellor's office and convince them of the merits of having a unified website. So we saw the chancellor's retirement sort of, in the windshield, and were able to maybe change a little bit of how we do stuff. So we started the WDN Governance Board in 2014. And what that group is composed of is 6 people from outside of our group, the Digital Experience Group. By the way, should do introductions here. Ryan D. Well, why don't we just take it around? Ryan D. is our main designer, developer. And just
I'm Ryan
Eric,
D. And I work on our framework and the template files that comprise the framework.
I'm Eric Rasmussen. I'm probably one of 2 that's focused on Drupal.
I'm Chris Burge. I'm the other Drupal developer.
I'm Aaron Coleman. I'm a senior developer. I do a lot of front-end design and development for the main university websites, and then a lot of colleges and departments as well.
And I'm Jeff Strick. I do application web development.
I'm Clay Lewis, and I do a lot of the stuff Aaron does.
And we also employ some students. We just, one student, Sabrina, she just got a gig at Wyden Kennedy in New York, a major ad agency. We call those our apprentices, and that's been really valuable for us as well. Anyway, the WDN Governance Board is composed of 3 people from the Digital Experience Group, and then 6 people that are elected from the Web Developer Network at large. And that seems kind of scary because we're giving away, we subject most of what we do to a majority vote, like any major decisions. And that obviously means that we've given away some ability to, control the future of the website. But I think by and large, and Ryan, Aaron, and me being the people right now who are sitting on the Gov board for DXG, what would you guys say regarding, whether that's had any ill effect or any positive effect?
I think in most cases, the votes are unanimous, and I could probably count on one hand the number of times that those votes haven't been unanimous since 2014. And usually there might be one person or 2 that have voted in the minority, but by and large, everyone. The thing that it allows us to do is like through conversation and discussion about whatever we're voting on. Usually by the time that we've really hashed it all out, we've kind of gotten a consensus.
And through that process, I think a few times we've realized that maybe we were moving too fast, or well, I think dark mode is one of the things we've been working on. That we went back to the drawing board a couple times during the process because folks on the WDN board maybe had some concerns. So.
And I will say that elections for those have been really organic. They seem like most of the time you get a person who's not only involved in our web developer network, but is also representative of a larger group within the campus. And so it's almost like constituencies have a representative within the Gov board. And so, we get to, it doesn't feel like you're just meeting, the Gov board is just made up of these random people. It feels like people who are very active in the web community anyway. So.
Well, I wanted to pause a second here for any questions you might have about governance.
Justin has a question.
Oh, great.
Has the governance board had any tension with decisions versus the rest of the university administration?
But we've more had, like when we were moving forward, we had what most universities would call their provost. Actually, I think that was Aaron. No, that wasn't your first meeting, but you were in that meeting, Aaron. There was a revolt of a that key administrator in a presentation meeting. I believe that was a WDN meeting. And we had another revolt with two deans. But that's happened a few times. Overall, though, since it's been well, and then there was also in the earliest days, the College of Architecture, despite the fact that the chancellor had said, "Thou shalt," the College of Architecture was standing outside of that and continued to for a while until their site ended up on the old, I don't know if you've ever seen web pages that suck, which was kind of a thing back then. But anyway, our College of Architecture at Nebraska was one of the prime award winners on web pages that suck until we heard from a person in the WDN that it was there, and we sent that up to the chancellor, and he went over and put the dean of the College of Architecture on his knee at that point, and that all changed pretty quickly. Does anybody have any more on those sorts of things? We have had pushback over the years, yeah. The criticality of the corner office.
I will say, and we'll get to this at a later slide, we've had a lot less of that, not only through, we keep meeting notes every month in WDN, and then also since we've had the governance board, I feel like we've had less pushback, and I think a lot of that comes with just being transparent. There's a lot more shared information about what is going on with our framework, and, so being more open with information has made it so there's a lot less pushback because, for the most part, people aren't being surprised by things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the criticality for us of having the chancellor in that corner has really been the thing that has, made it survivable, especially in those early years when, people in power will, try to poke and prod at a mandate like that, and it was pretty well consistently, beaten back, you might say. I don't know, but it was challenging. That's why I advise everyone, if you're thinking about going down this path, find a way to get in front of your chancellor and explain the importance of the website and the importance of a unified brand presentation, which they probably already believe in other media. So it may not be as big of a hurdle as it seems like, but a unified brand presentation online, consistency, in user experience, user interface, all those things are really good drivers. But yeah, I think we really got lucky by having an angry chancellor that wanted things to change, though. That was, if you can engineer a situation like that, highly recommend it. But I think that
Okay.
was just dumb luck.
So Brian and Eric both have kind of similar questions and I think are seeking a little bit of clarification. So do we work directly together, or are you all on the board but work for different areas of the university? Yes, and not exactly. So all of us directly work together. So like Clay, Chris, Aaron, Bob, Jeff, Eric Rasmussen, myself, we work in a group that is a split between UCOM and the Internet Technology Services called the Digital Experience Group, and we work on the sites, the overall framework. We work on individual sites as well, and we work on public information apps that are used throughout the university. And so that's the Digital Experience Group. And then three of us, myself, Aaron, and Bob, sit on the governance board, which consists of the three of us plus 6 others that are from different departments and areas of the university.
If you're interested in that, go to the wdn.unl.edu site. There's a sort of description of the governance board and how that works. Ultimately, because the Digital Experience Group and I am kind of responsible for our web presence. Ultimately, we did reserve 3 seats on the governance board for people from our group because we're ultimately responsible. But there are twice as many that are elected, so we think that works out pretty well. It has for us anyway.
I think a lot of the genesis of this, governance and, the templates, as we called them, a shared university template, a lot of the genesis had to do with branding, for consistent branding, which, at the simplest form is logo and colors and stuff like that. And I think that was the genesis of it. But of course, the benefits, not only starting with, of course, the benefit was branding, but that led to long-term, maybe that wasn't initially anticipated, just how much easier development is on, if you're talking about the communication side and the IT side, the IT aspect of it. Sure, development is a lot better when you can collaborate and share resources and you have a consistent framework, whether it's Drupal or whether it's applications outside of Drupal, are as Ryan said, we work with communications and IT, but the application developers that are pure IT, they don't even really have a lot of UI or front-end workers in there because they're able to just implement our front-end framework, our templates, and and as they say, that makes it a lot easier for them because they're just really worried on getting the back-end systems built up. And it means every project's not a, start from scratch where you have to do both the front end and the back end. And of course, that spans to Drupal too. It's much easier to get a site going when, the theme is already picked out, essentially.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. That's something we were talking about as we were throwing a few slides together this morning. I think, creating the sort of paths of least resistance, doing good design ahead of when people might need a well-designed slideshow or date picker or whatever, having things available for people to use that just makes their job a lot easier and consequently also gives us consistent user experience, is all valuable. I think Aaron was going to take us through these, but we've got this ecosystem of apps, many of them, purpose-built for sort of narrow uses. But you want to pop through here real quick, Coleman?
Yeah. So this is just sort of as Bob mentioned, these are sort of all our apps and systems and things that tie together, small pieces loosely joined, whatever you want to call it. And most of these are maintained and developed in our DXG group. So we've got Digital Campus Framework, which is sort of the base level framework for our website and other apps. UNL-CMS, which is just what we could put it on anything, but right now we're Drupal 7 and we're going to be moving to Drupal 8. Directory is all our, contact information for people at the university. Announce is a newsletter system that people can push out HTML emails with articles and things like that. It's in-house. Chat is built into our web framework, and it is basically we'll route emails to the person who's the lead on the website unless that chat is manned, and then you can have live chat. We have it at the top level, and then we have a couple other people making use of it. Events is just our in-house event system. Makes it really easy to push out feeds to our websites. Notification Center, this is in development. Somebody else can maybe speak to that later as one of our big ideas. Media Hub is sort of our in-house quote unquote YouTube. That was built mostly because YouTube is blocked in certain countries. It's blocked in certain K through 12s, and some of those countries we're recruiting towards, and we are obviously recruiting students who are in high school. And also it allows us to caption our videos pretty easy. We're tied in with Rev, and so all they have to do is enter a cost object number, and we can get people's videos captioned and then embed them on our websites really easy. Maps is just our in-house maps. Web Audit is a pretty robust system that was built to audit our websites for accessibility and then web standards. So everybody who's a site admin or a developer on a website gets every month or so a report emailed to them that kind of gives them a grade on how their website's doing. Alert is a way we can push out campus notifications to anybody using the framework through a central notification system. GoURL is our URL shortener that just uses unl.edu. Scheduler is people are using it for room scheduling. Innovation Campus is using it to schedule tools and devices out there. Lockup Generator is basically enter your information from directory and it pops out a copy paste thing you can put in your email signature. Or wait, sorry, I jumped forward to the next one. Logo lockups is different. That's for generating department, college, unit logo lockups. And email signature generator is kind of what I just explained. So we have a lot going on.
And most everything there is open source. If anybody wants to, think about anything, think about using anything, we're always open to having that conversation too.
And all these things kind of tie together, UNL, like I mentioned in a lot of different ways, UNL alerts, we can push out notifications to anyone using UNL framework. So if there's a gas leak, which there's oddly a lot of, but if there's severe weather, if there's other things bad happening, those can be pushed out to any page on the UNL framework. GoURL has like Google Analytics tracking built into it. Events, we've got multiple widgets that people can embed on their website. Yeah.
Cool, thanks, Aaron.
Wait, can I hop in just really quick here? Aaron brought up a good point about being able to push out pertinent information, urgent information with announce. When we got into COVID-19 and things were evolving very quickly, we need to do the same thing with COVID information. And I helped with that solution. I can say that having that unified framework that the WDN supports made that fairly quick and easy. If we hadn't had that, it would have been much more difficult to have unified communication across our sites regarding the COVID-19 changes that were taking place, hourly at that point as that was happening.
Yeah, we put a banner across the whole website. That means every page, college department, every page has a COVID-19 banner, which hopefully we'll be able to take off pretty soon. But then we also were able to develop in the framework a secondary banner. Ryan took care of that. And so, those areas like housing that has very specific information to convey to their audiences, they get the site-wide banner up above, and then usually below their hero, they implement the localized banner. So it brought a lot of consistency to that communication. I wanted to go through quickly some big ideas on web community. The most important thing I think in our experience, particularly in surviving or in sort of creating culture that would survive the chancellor, it was moving from sort of thou shalt to sort of more of a we can, where we could share ownership and we could do some cool stuff if we work together. Asking for feedback and actually incorporating feedback. You get a lot more feedback than you get contributions, but that's been super valuable to just so people in the community know that if they want to make an improvement, they don't need to branch things or go off on their own. There's a way to do that. We've always had a Slack channel open, or IRC before that. So hopefully we catch any of that sort of dissonance before it becomes a problem, And then as Aaron mentioned earlier, be transparent. I think have labored along for quite a while we want to get dark mode deployed, but we're trying to be very transparent in what we're doing there. We're trying to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to prepare, and basically just don't surprise them. On Drupal, I think Drupal is not the answer to every question. Nothing is. I mean, it's great for unstructured content. When you have a schema, obviously Drupal can be built to support things that are heavily schemaed. Our group, as a matter of fact, built a COVID case reporting and tracking system from Drupal in the last year, and was able to stand that up pretty quickly because we had Drupal ready to go. But for a lot of things like events that are very specific sort of schemas, we find it's better and leaner to run those as freestanding apps. And also, as far as building web pages go, we're moving from in Drupal 7 a very much 80%, I'd say, basic pages approach where there's a lot of HTML and a lot of places for amateur users to get in trouble, to an approach in Drupal 9 where we're going to have probably training required for anybody that touches the system. Probably not super intensive training, but we found things like knowing how to write an alt tag appropriately are really important. So even for the basic user, I think we're going to be requiring once a year training just on, training and refreshers on alt tags and other, fairly simple things. And then a more black belt sort of level for anybody that's allowed access after that to HTML. On frameworks, our general thoughts are to keep things separate as much as possible. One of the things that we didn't share earlier is that our CMS came along 5 years after we had a mandate for everybody to use the same template / framework. So the way we constructed it, it was running atop of a lot of things that, when we introduced it. There was a lot of Dreamweaver. There was a limited amount of WordPress. And, some other things, including some of our apps, that were already in development. So we built a framework that is separate from back-end systems. I know a lot of installations of things like, well, Hand & Hill or, some of the other CMSs and plenty of Drupal installations. The main home for all of the design is directly in that CMS, and it becomes kind of hard to, abstract it out and take other applications and unify the look and feel across all those. So our advice would be keep the framework separate. And then within the framework, something Ryan's been working on, and Ryan, if you want to talk for a moment about that, we took what was a fairly monolithic framework, and we have now separated it into markup and I'd say design, but Ryan, you can speak to that more sense.
Yeah, we split it up so that there's kind of a layer, it's kind of a tiered or layered approach to the framework where those elements that could be common to just about any site are kind of in this like basic like plumbing layer, and then there's a second layer on top of that where you would have your more of your theme customizations, things that apply to directly to your brand, your fonts, your colors, your design components that are your components that are designed specifically for how your brand is kind of articulated visually. And I guess if you're, in some ways it's not all that different from something like Bootstrap or Foundation or kind of the new CSS framework on the block is the name is escaping me at the moment, of course. Anyway,
yeah.
What's that?
That one.
Tailwind. That's it. Thanks, Brian. So yeah, it's kind of taking a similar approach. A lot of atomic design, a lot of utility classes and so on. But rather than have all of that, like everything in kind of in that same bucket, we've kind of split it off so that that you can apply some of those utility classes that are, padding, margin, font size, things that could be used by virtually any site. Those are kind of contained in this plumbing layer, for lack of a better term. But then the branding is kind of in kind of this separate layer. So what it allows us to do is we're working on a project at the moment where we're working with some other institutions to implement kind of what it's kind of referred to as like a digital backpack, or kind of like a service catalog for some of the services that are offered throughout different institutions at the university. And
by different institutions, he means the University of Nebraska at Omaha. The University of Nebraska-Lincoln's the Big Ten institution, but then University of Nebraska at Omaha is more of a regional urban center university, and then there's one out west called the University of Nebraska Kearney, that is smaller, I guess, just an outstate university, you might say.
Yeah,
All
and so
great.
so
Different.
each of those have their own branding. They have their own colors, their own fonts, their own styles, and what we're able to do with this is we have like one application, one instance, what will be one instance of Drupal running that will allow content to be entered in one place, and then depending on where a user is accessing these pages, this info, it will be presented with that particular institution's theme. So one set of
Which was the other cool. On the fly is the
on the fly. So one set of markup, one content source, one set of markup, and multiple themes being swapped out on the fly.
So one more slide. Go ahead.
Kevin has a question. I think Ryan is having dug into and forked web audit. There were a number of UNL isms that needed to be addressed to make that really usable outside of UNL. We've discussed sharing to inspire versus sharing and supporting. Does your government support sharing and supporting solutions outside of UNL? We're actually working on that with several of our public information apps at the moment. There are some UNL isms that are present in some of the apps, and we are working on using Digital Campus Framework to kind of address that, so that that they are a little bit more portable among other institutions.
Yeah,
Kevin, we're working with some.
Go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead, Bob. Well, we're working on some of them to generalize them so that even we can use them within the Nebraska system. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough in terms of the supporting to support the. In the past, it's been tough to support the general use case, but our IT within our system has moved more centralized. So now we can start looking at removing some of the UNL-isms to support some of the other Nebraska institutions. So that should make things more general going forward.
Yeah, we should be able to get it to a fairly neutral place. As within our own development at the university, we're always trying to get contributions, and that isn't as fruitful as it could be. And we'd love to put some brains together, and hear what needs to be done in those apps and how efforts could be pooled. But certainly I hear you on that. There are definitely UNL-isms in those things. We are meeting, as a matter of fact, every Wednesday afternoon at 4. We've been meeting on these apps, and we are working through a lot of those to kind of make them, as Jeff tries to really keep us aligned toward making things truly usable for other adopters. I would just one last slide here, and then hopefully we can just have a freewheeling discussion. But big ideas on technology, we would say keep it loosely coupled, keep things loosely coupled, so you can swap components in and out as new technologies come around. And then just in terms of technology and community, I think it's really super valuable if you want to keep the faith of your community to, for instance, be talking about CSS Grid before they start talking about CSS Grid, or at least when they start talking about CSS Grid, go, yeah, what are you ready to go there? We're aligned. But we've been able to lead on a number of things. We used to use the overused Wayne Gretzky quote, skate where the puck is going to be. I think in a lot of these things you can kind of see, in advance of Steve Jobs writing his thoughts on Flash open letter, he could see Flash was a dead letter. It was a dead technology, or going to be. And so, that's something we were able to do pretty early was to start whittling away, getting Flash out of the site. Standards-based video would be another example of that. When way back in the day we had, I think, 3 competing video formats, one from Apple, one from Microsoft, and then there was Real Networks. Obviously that stunk. So finally, when standards-based video came around, there was kind of crappy standards-based video, but then when we got to MPEG-4 H.264, that was like, okay, we got a technology that's better than everything else and is standardized. So we were able to, leverage that and embrace that really quickly. Part of that is obviously having a community and having a web framework and players that you control. Responsive design. We were able to be there really early with responsive design because we just were able to re-engineer our framework to support responsive. Add some markup and some classes and could get there pretty quickly. CSS Grid, I assume everybody's pretty well aware of CSS Grid, but it's really, outside of people using tables for layout, it's the first standardized layout construct that's inside all the browsers, all the logic is inside the browser, so therefore obviously faster better. Captioning, as I think Aaron mentioned. And then we're looking to get rid of, looking around the next corner, looking to get rid of 20-year-old technology for still images and to replace MPEG-4 H.264. We really think AVI or AV1 and AVIF are going to be the thing. So actually, Ryan's already done some stuff relative to implementing those.
Yeah, on our top level site, I've replaced not all, but most of the images with AVIF files, and in some cases, we're seeing no reduction in image quality and a reduction of file size by as much as like 90%. It's that remarkably different in size. And as we're actually working on a redesign of our top level site at the moment, and we will be pushing further ahead with AVIF and also with CSS Grid, relying more on the on CSS Grids. A lot of sites will have things separated out into grid columns of equal width, thirds, fourths, sixths, and so on, which is great. And we will continue to do that as well, but we're also exploring CSS Grids possibilities for some asymmetrical grids and just some more interesting layouts that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
Okay, this is where I'm hoping we have a wild and woolly just general discussion, because I'm not sure we touched on all the questions you might have or directions you might want to take a conversation. So Kevin, I'm depending on you now. Does anybody have any questions? Or Eric Simbrat?
So I'd like to pick on the thread about y'all generalizing out what you're doing moving forward. What does that look like for y'all? So thinking outside of UNL more to the UN system in terms of the tools that you've set up and the framework that you've developed and all of that, what does that mean for y'all and for the services you provide moving forward as you adopt to what is probably a lot more complex of a project and sort of long tail, especially when it comes to support? I'm not sure how your system has worked. I'm kind of spoiled by the university system of Georgia, but perhaps some thoughts on how that structure works might help enlighten that answer a little bit.
Feels like that. Go ahead, Eric. You're
Well, I can give you one example on a project we're working. I think Ryan talked about. It's a Drupal site. The code name, the project name is Digital Backpack, which means nothing and is a dumb name anyway. But it's basically an IT service portal that basically a site that describes all the IT services, and there's probably a couple hundred when you add them all together across campus. Well, our IT is now system-wide at University of Nebraska, so it's UNL, UNK, UNO, and the medical center. So the idea is to basically to create one Drupal site, and then depending on the domain you visited on, you would get that campus's theme. So if you go to, we don't know what it'll be ultimately, but just say itservices.unl.edu, you're seeing the site in the UNL theme. If you go to itservices.unk.edu, you're getting a whole different institution theme. And so and then of course, there are some services that are shared across all the campuses. So some of them are campus specific. And so, for Drupal, that's fairly standard, for the access control to the content. That's domain access, to define domains and define specific content that belongs to a domain. But then one of the interesting problems then is the theming layer of it, because we want these different, depending on how you access the site, potentially 3 different Drupal themes. And that's where what Ryan talked about with DCF, the underpinnings, of the consistent grid and the consistent utility classes become useful. So then what that looks like is we have the 3 plus 3 or 4 themes that are generally just the wrapper, the HTML template in Drupal, the page template in Drupal, and some small associated helper functions. But then what we wanted to do is share node templates, content type templates, field templates, share those across the 3 themes. And that's where 2 things come into play. One's that all these different themes are DCF, so that all the grid classes inside the node template, all the utility classes inside the node and field templates work on each theme, because each theme supports DCF the way it would, Bootstrap would be an alternative type of example. So the node templates and theme template, or the node templates, field templates, block templates, those need to be the same across all the themes. Well, so how do you do that? Well, one thing you could do was copy paste. That's always the bad solution. The other thing you could do is some real screwed up, symlink type thing on the server of symlinking directories, shortcuts. Well, that doesn't work either. We're doing this, I'm going to put the link in chat here. We have this module that Chris did the Drupal 8 port of. We had actually had a real basic version in 7. But this module allows you, this Twig UI module allows you to do templates in the browser on your Drupal site. And then you can specify, use this template for these themes. So for this IT services catalog project, we have the three different themes on the server that are just the HTML and the page templates for the wrapper. But then using this module is where, in the browser, is where I'm creating the node templates and the field templates, and then saying in the config, use this template for Lincoln, Cardi, Omaha, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of an example of the sort of thing we're going for, and that's a Drupal example, but we're going forward with some of our other apps, probably ultimately Media Hub, our video site, which is not Drupal, but doing the same sort of concept of how we can support multiple themes on the same site so that we can service every institution within our system without, maybe setting up multiple servers, multiple copies of the software, multiple copy pasting themes, all that. In some cases that's appropriate. In some cases, doing individual installs may be appropriate. But in some cases, it's sure a lot easier to manage if we're the ones managing ourselves anyway, to have one copy of the application and then just do some theme switching based on what domain it's accessed by. Hope that kind of makes sense. And we finally got the opportunity to plug Chris's Twig UI module. So check that out for Drupal 8 and 9.
I want to address Kevin's question there. We have a fairly robust rubric for taking a site through manual testing and bringing the site owners in and sort of doing a come to Jesus moment. Yeah, well, it's really collaborative. We try to make it half pleasant when we do a site assessment, Kevin. If you're seeing in chat, Kevin's question was, you talked about getting leadership buy-in, but what about other carrots and sticks? What happens when a site is failing accessibility audits? And our audits are accessibility plus, a lot of other things, some UNL specific, validation, spelling, all kinds of
SEO,
stuff.
spelling.
Yeah. But we, several years ago, were able in the governance board to actually get through some of those and do it fairly consistently. But I don't know where the time has gone, but we don't really seem to have the time so much in governance board. So to your question, I'm seeing that problem, and I am trying to leverage a situation that might be current for many people, because those 2,400 cases, the accessibility cases filed against institutions in 2017 are all live again. So I'm trying to leverage a little situation to get a quality assurance person that could make it their job to leverage web audit reports, leverage the things that we've already built, and probably under the aegis of the shared governance board, to do that work and to in most cases, I think, to partner, maybe in some cases to be an enforcer with the folks on campus that are building. We've got like 800 or so websites. So yearly goals. Okay, Kevin has another
What
question.
he's saying with the carrots is just make sure you have a big enough carrot that you can use it as a stick if you have to. No. I think ultimately our goal is with 800 websites, with our next instance of Drupal, is to whittle down the amount of people who can actually touch the HTML, whittle down the amount of people who can actually do some of the things that will give you these big errors, like so we'll have layouts that are more built in and coded where, people aren't copying and pasting coding examples. They're just saying, I want 2 columns and the left column is 25% and the right column is 75%. And then I get 2 little blocks in there and it's a WYSIWYG and you're not touching any HTML. And I think that's going to cut down on, and then make alt tags mandatory and do really good documentation and training on how to write proper alt tags.
I'll just jump in here quickly. So this goes back, if any of you followed the chunks versus blobs topic that's been covered in the last few years with WordPress's Gutenberg, they went very much towards blobs. Drupal went the other direction with Layout Builder towards chunks. We're taking advantage of that. We very much had a blob approach in our Drupal 7 CMS. We're moving towards a chunked approach with modular data, blocks and Layout Builder. So they won't have to get into a WYSIWYG field go look at the source, and then go do their own HTML. If we provide sufficient layouts and blocks for them, then it takes away the need to get into the HTML, which takes away a lot of the opportunity to get yourself into trouble. So that's one of the goals we're trying to accomplish as well.
Guardrails. Yeah. Kevin had a related follow-up. Do yearly goals performance reviews factor in the overhead of the work being shared on Drupal or University of Nebraska? What I've tried to do, and we're just going through this process, in sort of a down year, this year there's not enough to do any more than across the board, so there's no merit this year, so we're really just kind of memorializing work, documenting what's been done in the last year, so much of which was COVID related. But what I've in discussions, with particularly Chris and Jeff and Eric, is just to first emphasize to the people that write our paychecks, sign our paychecks, what the value of this development was for the University of Nebraska, first of all. They don't mind sharing it then, but I think that related, Kevin, to that earlier question about web audit. The amount of effort that goes into, well, like for instance, supporting Drupal, a lot of Drupal development. I mean, Dries Boytart. I'm gonna try. Chris could probably actually give me the correct pronunciation there. But he saw you couldn't make a living on just giving away all your work. So he's got Acquia paying his bills now, and is able to do community work because he's got Acquia paying his bills. I've seen some of the things. I think the person on, maybe it was the form builder, had a sort of open letter about participation in the open source world. We have a hard time justifying spending the university's money supporting, unless we're getting something back, unless other folks are making some improvements to something and we're able to sort of lift the boat. I heard, what's his name from Indiana, their CIO. I think his name's, what's his name? Brad Wheeler, yeah. He spoke on campus a couple of years ago, and the slide that sticks with me was 2 + 2 = 3, which was his way of saying, if you collaborate with another university on a development, and you each pitch in 2 developers, there's going to be enough friction in there. You're not going to get 4 developers worth of work, but you might get 3, and that's more than you put in, So that's always been kind of compelling to me. But I think our struggle, with open source has always been we make our stuff available, and we've had, like, the event system was used fairly widely a number of years ago. I don't think it really is anymore, but the opportunity is there, I think, for more of us to put our heads together on some things and create really strong solutions. But we would love to collaborate in a serious way with anyone on any of these apps. Is there anything else? I know it's 2:03 now, so some people may have other things to do. Nicole, Justin, Max, did we answer your questions or your reason for spending an hour with us? Eric Simbrad, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so at this point, what we can do is, for any additional questions, I highly encourage everyone to take advantage of the Higher Ed Drupal Slack. If you're not a member of that, you can check it out from highereddrupal.org and request an invite. We can continue the conversation for if anyone has any lingering questions afterwards there. Otherwise, I'd like to, on behalf of everyone that attended today, thank you all for coming by and presenting your perspective as well as what you've been able to succeed with and where you're going in the future. It's a great testament to where y'all have gone and what you've been able to do as well as where you're looking in the future. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.